So he might be the fourth on the depth chart, but on Friday, he'll be the first QB up ahead of the Browns preseason opener. Head coach Kevin Stefanski announcing fifth-round quarterback Shedeur Sanders will get the start on Friday against the Panthers. Sanders got the nod with veteran quarterback Kenny Pickett and third-round rookie Dillon Gabriel, both nursing hamstring injuries. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, who's received the majority of first-team reps, isn't expected to play on Friday. Here's more from Stefanski on his expectations out of his rookie signal caller Friday.
Yeah, my expectations for Shedeur are no different than the rest of the guys, honestly, Mary Kay. We expect them to go operate. It's when you get in these preseason games, you try to keep it very simple so that guys can play fast. All concepts that our players know and can kind of not think too much and just play ball.
Don't think too much, just play ball as we bring in CBS Sports NFL analyst Tyler Sullivan and Emory Hunt. As we didn't have to wait too long to see Shedeur Sanders under center for Cleveland, but up until this point, he has yet to take any snaps with the first-team offense. And to be honest, reps are hard to come by when you're that far down the depth chart with that crowded quarterback room. So, Emory, just how crucial is this preseason game in terms of his chances of making the roster, just considering the lack of opportunities he's had?
Guys, I am so sick of this whole discourse, right? They're being so disingenuous about Shedeur Sanders. If you watch all of that tape from 2023 to 2024, and you came up with him being a first-round pick or at least a top 40 pick, which means high second round, and just because he went in round 5, now all of a sudden you say, oh, he can't win the job as if he's some fifth-round pick and not a first-round pick that slid, especially when you consider that quarterback room that has Joe Flacco. And people love to talk about Joe Flacco's time with the Browns, but the last time we saw Joe Flacco play with the Browns, he was throwing pick sixes in the postseason and had all of those turnovers. And last year with the Colts, it wasn't that good because he got benched for Anthony Richardson, whom they threw on the bench after he tapped out of the ball game. So Joe Flacco is showing his age at 40 the last time we saw him play. And then Kenny Pickett, he has played in the league, what, 3 years? Got 15 touchdown passes in 3 years. Like, what are we even talking about? Shedeur is the best quarterback in that room. And the other part of this whole disingenuous conversation is the fact that folks believe just because you win the 5th round, you can't be a viable starter in this league. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl champ, MVP, 2nd round pick. Russell Wilson, future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer in my book, Super Bowl champ, 3rd round pick. You also look at Brock Purdy, 7th round pick. Paid Geno Smith, 2nd round pick. Even guys that have won playoff games that are not on their team, there's backups. Kirk Cousins, 4th round pick. Case Keenum, undrafted free agent. You also look at Tyrod Taylor. He didn't win the playoff game, but he broke Buffalo's playoff streak, 6th round pick. So people need to stop being disingenuous. Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in that room, and if given the opportunity to play, which he will this preseason game, it'll show itself on the field.
I just want to clock that it's August 6th, but Emory's already playing like it's mid-October, November. He's in mid-season form. That was unbelievable, and I co-sign it because, again, it's not how you got to the league. It's what you do when you are in the league. And so if you're Shedeur Sanders, I don't think that you necessarily have to worry about, does this make or break your chances of making the roster? I think that he should look at this opportunity as this is my shot to show that it was a fluke that I was a 5th-round pick. I should have been a top 10 pick. I should have been a first-rounder. I should have gone day 2, 3, go down the list. I think this is one of those opportunities where the pieces fall into place for you. Yes, Dillon Gabriel was picked ahead of you. Yes, Joe Flacco is going to be resting because he's 40-some-odd years old. Kenny Pickett dealing with injuries. It sometimes happens this way, where a quarterback, because of the situations ahead of him on the depth chart, it provides him an opportunity to show what he has. So this is a big opportunity for Shedeur Sanders. Yes, the way he got to this point, the way he got to the NFL, a little bit clunky, but he is here. There's an opportunity now in front of him. If he impresses, that's only going to embolden him, embolden the case for him, as Emory stated, to be the week 1 starter, be the more talented quarterback in that Browns quarterback room.
All right, you guys speaking with conviction with this one. Definitely defending Shedeur Sanders. It doesn't matter where he's drafted. What matters is how he performs on the field. And we'll get to see a little bit of that on Friday. But meanwhile, fellas, the Washington Commanders gearing up for their first preseason opener against the Patriots, kicking off the week with joint practices up in Foxborough, but they made the trip without wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who's still in a contract dispute with Washington. Reports did come from Wednesday's joint practice that outside of Deebo Samuel, the Commanders' wideouts were maybe getting a little smothered by the Patriots' DBs. But Tyler, just considering Washington's lack of options and maybe depth at that position, does this give McLaurin maybe a little bit of leverage in this contract standoff?
It should. And again, I never emphasize back pay for players. It's what you can do for me down the line. But he has been someone who has shown you that I don't think that age is really going to be a factor here. Yes, the case against him signing a massive deal is he's about to enter his age 30 season. Typically, wide receivers don't age well after the 30-year mark. But he strikes me as someone that can play deep into his 30s or into his early 30s at a pretty high level. Last season, he's coming off of a 1,000-yard season, 13 receiving touchdowns. Got 70% of his targets because they finally got stable quarterback play. And yes, you could say, okay, outside of Deebo Samuel, there are questions at wide receiver, but that wouldn't be the reason why I would be running to the negotiating table and inking my deal with Terry McLaurin. It's because that this organization has suddenly been thrust into a Super Bowl window because they struck gold with Jaden Daniels with the number 2 overall pick last year. You were in the NFL's Final Four going toe-to-toe with the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Theoretically, you should only be getting better as Jaden Daniels goes along. The only way that you don't get better is if you start stripping away talent. The Commanders did a great job this offseason of bringing in the likes of Deebo Samuel, bringing in the likes of Laramie Tunsil to solidify the offensive line. It would make all the sense in the world to just ink Terry McLaurin. It's actually crazy that we haven't gone to this point and he still hasn't signed his deal. But if I'm the Commanders, you look at this window you've been entrenched in now with Daniels, you should definitely get his wide receiver 1 locked up.
I totally agree. And at the end of the day, you want to pair up Jaden Daniels' contract with what you should extend Terry McLaurin with. So if we're looking at Terry McLaurin at 30 years old starting the season, focus on that 5-year mark. So 35 years old, he has a chance to play a nice long career in Washington, which should come around the same time you're going to be up for extending Jaden Daniels. So 35 years old, then you can kind of say, well, we don't want to extend you even more so. But right now, you should try to pay him as a top 8, top 7 wide receiver, because that kind of jives with when you're going to want to pay Jaden Daniels. He's earned it. He is Mr. Commander. He has represented his team well, both on the field and off the field. He is the leader in the locker room, and he sends a goodwill message to the locker room, especially with this new ownership group, that, hey, we're going to pay our best players. We're going to reward guys that want to be here, that exemplify what it means to be a Commander. I would say focus on that 35-year mark, give him that 5-year deal, and let him just ride out with Jaden Daniels.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that he should get paid by Washington, but should the two sides fail to come to terms, the Patriots are a team, I'm just saying, that could use a veteran wideout. And you guys mentioned it. We saw last year how Terry McLaurin can help a young quarterback. You talk about Jaden Daniels and the year that he had. So, Tyler, what should the Patriots be willing to give up if Terry McLaurin actually does become available?
Right. If he is available, this organization should be moving heaven and earth to try to acquire him, because for all the things we were just saying about Jaden Daniels, you could apply it to Drake May. Terry McLaurin would be the ideal partner in crime for Drake May, even though, yes, they brought in Stephon Diggs, but you'd really be looking at Terry McLaurin as the wide receiver 1. And in terms of what you would have to give up, I think the starting point would have to be similar to what the Pittsburgh Steelers did with DK Metcalf earlier this offseason. It was a second-round pick with some day 3 swaps because they were signing him to that 5-year, $150 million extension. So you have to factor in the money there in terms of the draft capital that you would be getting in return. But if I were the Patriots, I might even go a little bit higher than that. I would dangle that first-round pick, because if you look at where this organization has been over the last 5, 6 some odd years, they've been allergic to drafting elite wide receivers. They just haven't been able to do it. So maybe this is an overpay to bring in a guy like Terry McLaurin, who would be 30 years old, to give away a first-round pick on top of extending him. But where this team is at, again, very similar to the Commanders. You have your young quarterback on his rookie deal. You'll be able to extend yourself financially by bringing in a guy like Terry McLaurin. And then theoretically, yes, you're sending around a first-round pick, but if you are going to be as good as you hope to be, that first-round pick isn't in the top 3, isn't in the top 5 anymore.
Listen, I would stop at second-round pick, that alone, for Terry McLaurin, because it gives you that bona fide number 1 out there, or number 1B, to go along with Stephon Diggs. If I don't want to do second-round pick, I'll say, hey, Washington, you need a bell cow back. You need someone that can tote that rock, get those tough yards. Here's Ramondre Stevenson in a third-round pick, and you can have at it, right? So I would say there are some options for New England, but I wouldn't go higher than the second-round pick, because I kind of value that first-round pick for New England. But they do need offensive firepower, second-round pick and or a player in a third-round pick, I'm willing to part ways with.
Oh, we got options over here. We can dangle that second-round pick, maybe some day 3 swaps. Tyler saying even if you got to dangle that first round. Emory, what a little bit of a trade option by way of a ball carrier. But, fellas, speaking of young signal callers, the Vikings giving the keys to the offense to another member of last year's QB class, J.J. McCarthy, expected to take the reins after suffering a torn meniscus in the preseason opener that kept him off the field the entirety of last season. Head coach Kevin O'Connell expressed his confidence in the second-year signal caller, now ready to take over as QB1. Take a listen.
His skill set, he wouldn't be here, guys, if we didn't think he had the skill set required to play this offense, the version of quarterback in this offense at its peak that we need. Does that mean that it has to be from day one? Otherwise, we're all going to make some flash judgment of what he is or he isn't. It's not how I'm going to roll. You guys know that. My job is to coach, lead, teach, and motivate our team. But for JJ, this is a minute-to-minute thing of growth, development, and playing the quarterback position, managing our offense. Whatever we decide gives us the best chance to win football games while also coinciding with what his personal development plan is.
Whatever gives them the best chance to win football games. But, guys, it's not just the expectations McCarthy will have to handle heading into his first year at the helm, but he's going to open up the year shorthanded with wide receiver Jordan Addison suspended for the first 3 games of the season for violating the league's substance abuse policies. Emory, what do you expect just this Vikings offense now to look like out of the gates when now you got McCarthy down a wideout?
I'm laughing and smiling because I'm listening to his comments, and all I hear, hey, y'all, we about to be like Michigan. We're just going to run the football, operate on play action. We're going to de-emphasize him throwing the football a lot until we ease him back into the passing game, ease him back into football. And that's a great strategy. He touched on it. Like, we're going to manage the game for him, and that's why you beef up on the offensive line. That's why you have a couple of tight ends that can really get down the field. You have a stable of backs, and you have a guy that does a great job in throwing off play action. He did the same exact things that they're describing that they're going to do for him at Michigan, in which led him to winning a national championship. But when you don't have Addison out there, you draft in the draft Ty Felton out of Maryland. Big fan of him. He was my number 3 Z receiver, that flanker position, and he has explosiveness in all directions. He's a catch and run guy, so he's always a threat for a chunk play and does a great job blocking in the run game. So he's a viable option there. I know they have Lucky Jackson, who was all XFL in 2023 with the DC Defenders, so they have a veteran presence there. He's 28 years old, but Ty Felton is a rookie I would say keep an eye on.
I think one of the things that we look at with the Vikings, and I've commended them throughout the offseason when it released to J.J. McCarthy, they're perfectly established to usher in a young quarterback. Yes, you won't have Jordan Addison for the first 3 games, but you still have a wide receiver. I think his name is Justin Jefferson. I think he's pretty good. I think they'll be all right there. You have T.J. Hawkinson at the tight end spot. You have a stable offensive line, as Emory said. You have a good stable of backs, and you have this guy in his ear in Kevin O'Connell, a coach of the year, offensive guru. So, to me, I'm not that worried. Again, there's the natural worry of, is this player going to be able to translate to the NFL? Is he going to be worth that first-round pick, or is he going to be a bust? But that comes with every player. I'm not worried about the situation that he's put into. That's one of the best in the NFL, and I think that Kevin O'Connell, like you were saying, Emory, I think they're going to cater this to J.J. McCarthy. I think that they're not going to completely open up the offense and throw it 40, 50 times a game. They're going to manage it to his skill set, and then week by week, maybe giving him a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. And when you get to week 4, you're getting another wide receiver back in Addison. So to me, I look at J.J. McCarthy and say, yes, of course, it might not be as prolific as it was with Sam Darnold a year ago. I don't know if they're going to win 14 games, but I do think that this might be one of those situations where the organization maybe takes a win or 2 back, but to move forward a little bit more, building for the future.
All right, Emory and Tyler, not sweating right now being without Jordan Addison, running like Michigan. They got a good O-line. You've got Kevin O'Connell and, some guy named Justin Jefferson. He'll be just fine. All right, guys. The team that bounced the Vikings out of the playoffs last year, making some interesting headlines on Wednesday. Retired Super Bowl winning defensive tackle Aaron Donald teasing a return. Okay, now before people take that and run with it, it was a back and forth banter with disgruntled Cowboys star Michael Parsons. Donald commenting that if the Rams trade for Parsons, he might think about coming out of retirement. Micah tagging his agent saying, don't tell me info like that. So you guys, Aaron Donald saying himself that D-line would be unreal. Tyler, I just want to, just for hoots and giggles, let's pretend this really could come into fruition. How unreal would this Rams defense really be with Micah Parsons, Aaron Donald coming out of retirement?
It'd be silly. It's like I'm playing Madden. It's like I'm playing fantasy football on the defensive side of the ball. It would just be absolutely ridiculous because we're not even factoring in that there's Sean McVay, arguably the best head coach in the NFL, on the sidelines. You have Matthew Stafford that was able to lead this team to a Super Bowl not too long ago, and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. So we're basically talking about a super team. If you have Aaron Donald coming out of retirement, Micah Parsons at 26 years old, double-digit sacks in every year of his career, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, all joining forces, that seems pretty ridiculous. I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys would want to ship Micah Parsons away in general. Certainly not in the conference. I feel like if you would go in to ship him away, you send him to the AFC. Hopefully you don't have to worry about him for the foreseeable future. But if we're playing fantasy football, seeing him on the Rams, seeing him with Sean McVay and Aaron Donald somehow comes out of retirement, that seems pretty fun.
I am not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. What will happen a few weeks from now is Jerry Jones will go on Micah Parsons' little podcast and announce the extension. I'm done talking about Micah Parsons and this whatever hypotheticals. He's going to be a Cowboy, and Jerry Jones is just playing us like fools.
Emory, not just falling for the game, just having a good time with this. But Tyler, I'm with you right there. Listen, if you have this stacked roster, I'm just saying you might be giving those Eagles a run for their money in the NFC. But as always, fellas, thank you so much. That was a good time. Thanks for not being fun, Emory. Well, one thing we don't have to imagine, that's preseason action getting underway this Thursday. The Baltimore Ravens hosting the Colts with Anthony Richardson getting a start over Daniel Jones in the opener. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor announcing that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the rest of the healthy starters will take the field in the preseason opener against the Eagles. And new Raiders head coach Pete Carroll making his first trip back to Seattle, where he became the winningest coach in franchise history. All that action getting underway Thursday. It may not count, but it matters.